So we'll let some more people trickle in as they come in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Derek, are you good? You ready to rock and roll? Awesome. So we're going to get started just to be cognizant of people's time, and they're going to keep me on check because I tend to ramble a lot.
Can do.
Yep. And we're gonna try to really stay on point. We've got a really, I think, cool topic. We're doing two-part webinar on traffic control and lead management. What that really means essentially is stop being too busy and increasing your profits, right? Because that's kind of what everybody's experiencing right now. So we're going to talk about the inbound aspects of that, and we're going to talk about the outbound aspects of that. So what you can do to stop fumbling all of the leads that you're currently getting at the moment. That's on the inbound side. And then for part two, we just really can't fit it all into one. We're going to essentially do what you can do outbound to help with, that's the traffic control part, gaining some inventory, which, as you know, you're probably aware, it's a big pain point right now for most dealerships. What do you think? How do you think that description was, Derek?
Spot on, sir. So
All
I'm
right.
excited to get into this and show people what they can do to create a better customer experience and gain a little piece of the market share with some crack commando black ops ninja tactics to gain inventory.
That's right. Heck yeah, man. I'm excited too. So just real quickly, I'm going to go over some housekeeping items. Try your best to silence your cell phone. Actually, while I say that, let me sure. Yep, mine is on silence. Close that Facebook tab if you can, unless you're watching this on Facebook Live. Don't close the Facebook tab. Feel free to be interactive on the chat, ask questions. Feel free to stop us. We'll try to be as interactive on any particular section. We're going to do our best to really adhere to the schedule, but we're not going to try to be too structured. So it's okay for you to jump in and for us to, you don't have to wait till the end, to the Q&A. If you have a question, if you have a pressing question, feel free to ask it away in the chat. If you are the owner, marketing director, sales manager, general manager, or anybody in any kind of decision-making position or leadership role at a Powersports, Marine, RV dealership, Harley dealership, I think that the next 45 to 60 minutes are going to be really, really of a game changer for you guys. We're going to go over the aspects of what you can do to really stop being so busy, being able to more easily follow up with leads, qualified leads, right? Because right now, we know there's kind of a lot of ghost buyers, if you would, people that would never really buy from you otherwise, but because of the market is the way it is. So we're going to address that. We're going to talk about aligning your sales process to your marketing so that you can boost your revenue and profits, and how to use follow-up and other resources that are readily and easily available to you to lessen the stress on you and your sales team. So with that, I want to do a formal intro for my special guest today. I'm super, super excited to have you here, Derek. I want to tell you guys, I want to actually have him tell you why you guys should listen to him. Derek and I have known each other for quite a bit. We go back quite a few years, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with him. Derek, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, thanks for having me on today, Joe. It's a pleasure, as always, to see you and to be a part of the exciting Beyond Creative brand and your digital agency. I know firsthand of your passion and your commitment to helping dealerships make a better customer experience and make more money doing so. So, yeah, when did we meet? 2016, 2017?
Yeah, around there. So it's been going on like 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah. So Riva Motorsports, one of the biggest power sports dealerships in the country. You were the creative director, marketing manager, Houdini, crowd pleaser, block party, throw in, crazy son of a gun. So when we got together, I was, I've been doing this for a little bit, and I was like, man, I was very intrigued at your level of intimacy with what you were doing, to the point where you were teaching me, like, we're trying to put some marketing strategies together, and you're like, no, hold on, we got to do this better. Let's take better pictures. Let's do it. And I'm like, okay, let's do it your way. Let's see what happens. And I think the highest percentage of opening an email ratio I've ever seen was when you and I created a couple of campaigns, and I think we got to like 33% open rate, which before that, I was trying to get 15, 17% open rates on my email blasts. And then you and I put some stuff together and it was crazy. So a lot of respect for you and what your eye for detail can do.
Thank
And so
you.
going back to me, I've been doing this since 2004 when I took a job at a Harley Davidson dealership in Dallas, Texas, just having come off about a 15-year musician slash restaurateur life. So I was in a band, I was a restaurant trainer, corporate trainer. Then I opened a restaurant with some buddies, decided that that was a horrible investment of both time and money, and decided to get out. Bartender of mine got a job at the Harley dealership and told me, hey, you need to come here. We're having fun. I know you like motorcycles, and I did. So the rest, as they say, is history. So I have a lot of experience. I was a corporate trainer, store opener for Brinker. So that's where I get a lot of my training skills and the ability to help leadership and grow people and deal with people. And because I have that experience, I'm able to walk into a dealership, put on a shirt, and I can walk up to the service counter and write service. You can put me in the box. I can present a menu, close finance. My passion is really on the sales floor and or the retail sales, parts, accessories, motor clothes, interacting with people and providing an exceptional experience. So that's where my forte is. And, you know, I am a CRM wizard, as you put there. I love that. That's flattering and intriguing all the same.
Yeah.
But I cut my teeth in consulting after a stint in the Harley world with a CRM company. And so they gave me an opportunity to jump on board and start consulting real time in dealerships on their CRM software. So I take CRM very personally. It's something that's important for not only the customer's experience, but also keeping the sales team organized and up to speed on who they have, when they need to talk to them, et cetera. So I've been fortunate to be now 10 years as DS1 Consulting. I started in August of 2011. So this August will be 10 years for me going into dealerships, as you have displayed here. Some of the big names, I've been very fortunate to build relationships with these people and their teams and go in with the shirt, talk to their customers like I'm part of the team. And then this is how I showcase the sales process, because to me, it's one thing, you know, there's a lot of consultants out there that sit in their suit and tie in their boardroom meetings saying, hey, if you do this and you say this, then you'll get this. Well, I do that too, but then I put the shirt on and I go show them exactly what it looks like when I greet a customer, when I set them down, when I close the deal, when I make the follow-up phone call, when I log them into CRM. That shows the would-be trainee that, hey, man, this guy's not just a loudmouth Texan. He's not full of crap. He knows what he's talking about. So it's been since 2004. So what is that? 17 years? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. Yeah, and I gotta say, because I think you're a very humble guy. So I don't know that you would say this, but he really goes in there and is. I just got to say a testament to the kind of person you are, because I've seen you in action. And actually, Derek and I, we get to collaborate. A few of the dealers that you see on the screen right now, it's just a few of the ones he helps, and he and I actually get to collaborate on multiple dealerships that he goes and he does, consulting for, and that we handle either A, the lead generation for, and or B, the lead management for as well. And Derek's the kind of guy that'll go in there and, like, if the dealership, the week he's scheduled to go in, the dealership is struggling with like not having enough sales guys or whatever, he'll get on the phone and the next thing you know, he'll leave that week having sold like 10 or 15 bikes or whatever, So it's pretty badass, man. That's awesome.
That has happened for sure.
Yep. Cool, man. Well, it's definitely a pleasure to have you. I'm very excited to be able to collaborate with you on this webinar today. I'll do a quick segue onto a little bit about me, why I think those that are here today, that you joined us. We value your time, so I want to tell you a little bit about why it may be beneficial to listen to the stuff that Derek and I are going to talk about here. I've got a similar experience in the sense that I started out circa 2005 in the digital marketing world, but of all things started in the car business. So, car dealerships. And fast forward some years later, saw the disparity between the resources that car dealers have versus power sports. And I have a personal passion for power sports, for boating, and for the RV industry. And I really want to, help this industry succeed. So you've probably seen me in, columns in power sports business or boating industry. I've been lucky enough to have collaborations with people such as Derek, who's on, one of our attendees here today, Steve Jones, Mark Sheffield from Spader, and also Dealer News as well. So here are some of the dealerships that we have or we currently help. They're really like our family. Yeah, I think a little bit different than Derek, that he is a consultant. He goes in, right? And what would you say you go in like once, it depends on your agreement with the dealer, but you go in once a quarter, once every 6 months to the dealership?
Yep, it's entirely up to the dealer. Kind of, we put together a customized package, whether, it depends on what we're working on. Some things need a lot more attention to detail than others. So it could be
Yeah.
once a year, it could be 6 times a year. I've had 12 times a year before. So
Yeah. So we, from our end, being an agency, and that's one of the things that sets us apart at Beyond Creative, is we really could do everything remote. But I actually do, of course, during COVID, things were thrown off a little bit, right? It's an understatement.
yeah,
But for the most part, I try and actually go visit, for a day, at least a full day or a couple of days, our dealerships all throughout the United States and Canada. Because there's nothing like really being there. I mean, Derek, I think you might have mentioned, I know you do mention to me all the time, you wear the brand, And for me, it's about absorbing the culture, really soaking it in, understanding their culture. You could have a dealership selling the same thing to the guy next door, and they do things completely different. So, just being there, mingling with the people and everything. And so our dealers are like our family for sure. Cool. So let's talk about, what we came here today for, right? Which is the common pain points that you're likely experiencing as a dealership right now. You may be struggling to actually keep up with handling with all of the leads that are coming in. So you're wondering, how do I do this internally? Maybe your team is really having a hard time following up, or it feels like your sales team is too busy, or training on follow-up is too time consuming, or you think it may be too expensive. Or perhaps, your sales team says that they're talking to too many fake buyers, or really never would be buyers. Does that sound right, Derek?
yeah. I think you and I have actually collaborated on this at that little dealership that could in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, And that was a real struggle for them, was just inundated with callers that were outside the province, that really, 8, 10, 12 hours away, that were blowing their sales guys up, and to the tune where they weren't able to focus on the people that actually could or would buy from them. So, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's isolated to that little dealership up in Canada. It's, all over the States right now, because of product supply is just so low. People are willing to drive to go get something these days. So I think you've seen it inundated all the sales teams. And I've been in the dealership listening to the phones ring off the hooks while everybody has a customer in front of them sitting down trying to work deals, and then the phone just rings, and then you sit down with the sales guy to train with them, and you're like, how many voicemails do you have right now? 11. Well, how long have they been there? I don't know, that was Monday, today's Friday. Like,
Oh
wait a
God.
minute. Wait a minute, we just missed 3 sales out of the 11 people. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. I think it's definitely not limited to them. I think we have calculated that they were getting as much as 45% out of towners. But when I mean out of towners, is I don't mean somebody that, maybe is an hour away, that could possibly, because right now the market's hot, right? So if you really want something and so got it, you're going to drive an hour to get it. It's no biggie. But we're talking about people that were substantially from out of town, 2 hours, 3 hours away. Those are people that likely, may never become your customers. So to Derek's point, I think it was as high as like 45% that we had calculated. So we went in there to try to filter that and then lessen the blow of what they were experiencing. You may have heard me talk about this in the past with regards to the principal concepts, and we'll try to get through all of them today, hopefully if I move quickly enough, with regards to being able to convert those leads, because there's a lot of ghost shoppers right now. Yeah, I think the calculation is that there's probably about one buyer that's shopping an average of, I believe, 5 to 6 dealers for the same vehicle. Would you say that's about right, Derek?
That's 100%, yeah, if not more, depending on, I was just in Metuchen, New Jersey, up in the North Country there, and Newark, New York City is 45 minutes away, and I mean, there's dealerships on top of dealerships, on top of people, on top of buildings, on top of everything. So 10 dealerships, to be able to reach out to 10 dealerships and only drive 30 to 60 minutes is a real possibility. So people are calling around these days for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. And at the end of the day, I think, when it comes to profitability and sales, because you've probably experienced, or you've heard some dealers tell you that, hey, man, I've got the most amount of leads I've ever had, but like we're not really doing that well profit wise, or even our numbers aren't looking that great. And I know your train of thought, Derek, is very similar to mine on this, which comes back to the user experience. And so that's where really the problem starts. If the sales guys are too jammed up and they can't give a call back, and we'll get a little bit more into this in a few future couple slides. But if they don't call back to like a week later, forget about it. That just goes to poor customer experience. And then there are the people that they're a legitimate lead, but they do need to be reached out multiple times. And I'm going to share some stats with you on how many contact attempts the average sales rep does before they give up, and it's kind of alarming. So it just speaks to that. I mean, almost 80% of leaders are going to start losing customers after the first 60 seconds of not responding to a lead. So obviously that's going to be all missed revenue opportunity. And for a lot of dealerships, it's daunting. They're like, man, how do I get back to leads that quickly when my guys are so slammed, right?
Yes, it's a real scenario.
So this is a stat that Derek shared with me, of like internet leads being up a whopping 300%. And then that's where we really get into asking the question, like, has it really mattered for your dealership's profit? Because essentially to what I was saying was, are you fumbling these leads? And granted that, yeah, some of them are going to be out of towners, some of them are going to be tire kickers and all of that. But there's still, wouldn't you agree with that, Derek? There's still going to be a really good amount of solid leads there that either A, if you have the inventory, right, which is that's topic for part 2, then you sell them by being diligent and getting to them as quickly as possible. And B, if you don't have the inventory, the vast majority of OEs right now are doing, pre-orders. So it's about either getting the pre-order, or if there's somebody who would be a customer in the future, being able to nurture that by your relationship and the user experience you're giving to them. People don't want to be, BS'd and kind of be given this whole fluff and this runaround.
Well, it's interesting, Joe, because prior to 2020, we looked at a closing ratio, which is, we use like the 20%. If you were hitting 20%, you were firing on all cylinders. But what we've seen now is it's almost at 70%. If you get a live person, you have the product, you do everything you're supposed to do, engage the customer, invite them in, then it's 70% chance you're selling that unit. So to your point, if you fumble the ball, if you don't follow up, then you just lost a sale, because 70% of the time now people are buying. I've never heard of so many people offering their credit card over the phone to hold the unit. Before, it was like the scariest thing you had to train a sales guy to do is tell that customer to give you the credit card, because we're going to put a deposit on it and hold it for you. Now, the customer, before you can even say anything, here's my credit card number, make sure you don't sell it before I get there. So the fact is that we're losing business because every one of those people we don't follow up with or unable to answer the phone for, that's a lost sale 70% of the time.
Yeah, 100%. That leads to essentially what I like to consider is the number one biggest factor between top dealerships and the rest, right? There's like that Italian economist, I always forget his name, formula, which is like 80%, 20% of your efforts.
Pareto's law.
What is it?
Pareto's law, the 80-20 rule.
There you go, the 80-20 rule. 20% of your efforts are going to give you 80% of your results, right?
For sure.
So that's the same thing when it comes to the number one aspect, differentiating dealerships out there. It's boils down to lead handling, and really about 20% of the dealerships taking 80% of the profits and of the revenue out there.
That's true. I believe
Yeah.
that 100%.
So let's talk a little bit about the cost of bad lead follow-up. And, Derek, feel free to jump in here as whenever you want. But I think you heard me mention this earlier on, which is, that sales are going to start dropping just after 60 seconds of not responding. Sweet spot, of course, and I'm gonna show a graph. So let me stop right there, and I'm not gonna blow it, because there is actually a graph that shows why that 60 seconds is so important. But a slow response time, and I know Derek is big on this, is going to equal poor or terrible customer experience, which later on is going to affect your CSI scores. An insufficient number of touch points is going to equal to unconverted leads. Poor word tracks are going to leave you with, crappy appointment ratios. And then there's going to be just a ton of missed appointments. So people that you may have booked and then just never really ended up coming to the dealership. So I put this slide always just standalone from the stats, because it's mind-boggling, right? 78% of dealers start losing customers when they take longer than 60 seconds to get back to them. It's insanity. But here's what the numbers actually tell us. Your conversion rate goes up to 391% if you reply within a minute of a lead coming in. You're still at a nice and healthy 160 within 120 seconds. Then you start going at about 100 to that 3-minute mark. So this is what I was talking about, that I almost got ahead of myself. So you could technically say, okay, we'll give yourself a leeway between 60 to 180 seconds, but you definitely want to shoot for that. And a lot of dealers, I would probably say, feel intimidated by that. And I'll share some things in the next future slides as to how you can implement different things that are going to be helpful. But it's super critical. It's super important. You want to talk as to this a little bit, Derek, with regards to no answer and no callback?
Yeah, I'm experiencing this real time in the dealerships I'm working with, and it is absolutely just baffling to me how you pay. What's the average budget a dealership spends on marketing and attracting people to your Facebook, your website, calling the dealership, showing up at the dealership? I mean, we're talking 150 plus the person that they pay, the marketing manager, their $60,000, $80,000, and we're talking $200,000 to make the phones ring, to send the emails in, the inquiries in, and then the sales manager is like, "Oh, I'm just too busy. I'll get to those later because we have 20 people at the door." And I'm like, okay, well, you need to hire somebody else, because you could pay that person's salary just to sit there and take infield calls and take the inbound inbox, internet leads, the Facebook chats, all that stuff. And right now, again, back to the 70% conversion rate, right now, more than ever, people are not going to a dealership, not contacting a dealership unless they want to buy. So more than ever, it means if I'm missing this, then I'm missing a sale. And the percentages may be here or there, but they're the highest they've ever been. So it's mind-boggling to me why we're not paying more attention to staying on top of them. And part of it is the leadership training. Like, the sales manager isn't too busy. He just needs to spend his time wiser and make the rounds and sit with the sales guys once a day and make sure they're staying on top of the CRM and the follow-up that he's dealing out. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, I think I would probably say that sometimes, we misjudge and we misinterpret, like, oh, we got to put out this fire, right here, but we're failing to realize that by addressing a bigger aspect, like you're mentioning, with the training and things that kind of go from the top down, that we're going to make an enormous difference. That kind of really ties in hand with the next stat, which is that reps are going to make 75.2 fewer contact attempts than they think they do. So that means that out of 4 reps that you ask them, like, how many attempts did you make? And let's just say the 4 of them will tell you, hey man, I reached out to that guy 10 times. Well, guess what? 3 out of 4 of them, are going to actually have made lower attempts than they thought than what they told you, that what they actually did.
Yeah.
And that matters because if we look at, again, stats, these are things that have been proven. Look at the number of contact attempts it takes to bring the conversion rate above the 90s. You're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 6 contact attempts via phone, right? So it makes an enormous difference. Now, the average sales rep is going to give up on a lead after just having contacted that lead 1.3 times on average, and that's mind-boggling, right? And I do think, to Derek's point, it boils down to training. It also could boil down to structure, because some dealerships, for instance, I'm of the belief that a lot of dealerships should probably either have somebody dedicated for business development in-house, and just somebody who's dedicated to doing all of this, so the user experience can be better, so they can get to these people quicker, so they can get to these people the right amount of times, and then they just leave the sales guys be for what they're good at, right? Which is, once that lead is real and it comes in through the door, then they handle it. Because a lot of sales guys are, you kind of alluded to this at the beginning, Derek, which was like, they just deal with what's in front of them, right? They don't necessarily, they think that like a lead, oh, that lead, what do you mean? It's intangible, so they can't see it. So they're going to always deal with what's in front of them. So
we got a good question here, if I can interrupt. Liz asked,
yeah,
how can a meaningful response be pulled together in less than 60 seconds to answer the customer's question? And for me, it's not about answering the question, it's about acknowledging the question. And that opens up, hey, at least I'm being acknowledged here. It's like when you're in line at Starbucks and they go, hey, we'll be right with you. Oh, I'm acknowledged, so I'll wait my turn now. It's the same thing.
100%,
And that gives you
100%.
segue into going into answering the question and building the relationship. Even if it's online, you got to build a relationship. So that's a great question, Liz.
It is a really good question. And Liz, I'm going to give a little bit of a formula in a little bit as to what I call cadence, which shows you how you can use a mix of a real person being human and answering with auto responders, because there's no such thing as set it and forget it. You're bound to fail if you just set stuff on automation and you think that a computer's going to do everything. But it's got to really be a mix of both. And to Derek's point, if you acknowledge people, it goes way far. Now, Derek, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit more of the spotlight and talk a little bit about the point that's on the screen right now.
Yeah.
This is very interesting, and how you worded this.
It's crucial, because and this doesn't just apply to us in our industry. I mean, if you go anywhere, we just recently had some trouble with plumbing here at my house here in Tucson, Arizona. So we call 4 plumbers because, first of all, nobody answers their phone. Second of all, nobody gets back. And out of 4 plumbers, 1 person called us back, and that 1 person took 4 weeks to get out to my house. And hey, it's COVID, I understand, but there was no touches. There was no reassuring that they were going to be here. It was like, finally I had to call, hey, are you ever going to get out here? Oh yeah, you know what? We'll be there tomorrow. And so when I go to the dealership, one of the things I do to illustrate this point is I'll take a group of sales guys. We'll get on the phone, on my cell phone, and we'll call 5 of their closest competitors. And we do 3 questions. Do you have it? How much? What's the best deal? And every single time we get, do you have it? Hold on, crickets. Yeah, it's going to be, yeah, I got one in red and blue. Okay, how much is the black one? Hold on. Okay, it's $13,995. Well, how much is it out the door? Hold on. And it's crickets the whole time. And the sales guys are going, holy shit, this sucks. I'm like, well, that's you. That's exactly how you are, unless you change everything. Because what the sales guys are doing at the other dealerships is training the customers that all they have to do is go, do you have it? How much? What's the best deal? They don't ask for a name and number. They don't try to build any relationship. They aren't asking good questions, qualifying questions. So at the end of this exercise, the sales guys are like, holy crap, it's so easy to beat our competition. And it really is. And especially now, because people are just order takers. Back to my 70% closing ratio, all they have to do is answer the phone. Hey, can I give you my credit card? I'll take the black one. There's no other questions. So when we have a customer that calls in and we give them any ounce of like special treatment, like, hey, where are you calling from? Wait a minute, that guy sounds like a real human being here. Hey, do you have any big trips planned this year? Whoa, wait a minute, that's a sizzly conversation. What's happening here? Hey, have you ever tried to sit on one or test ride of these before? Whoa, this guy's out of control, man. This sounds awesome. Where are these guys at? I'm coming in hot. And so
Yeah.
all we have to do is a little bit of customer service, just building a little bit of a relationship, asking some good questions and being sincere. And the key is fun, right? Excitement sells fun. So if we're a little bit excited, people come in hot and they're ready to go. And we just destroyed the competition because nobody's doing that right now.
I,
They're
I
order
like to call it,
takers.
I like to call it being human, right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. That's what I say. Just be a normal human being. Have a pulse. Like, check this. Is it okay? I'm alive.
I'm
Let's have
alive,
some
yeah.
fun.
Does a mirror fog up under your nose? Okay, you can do this.
Exactly. This is supposed to be fun anyway.
How does that tie into your 90% ego, 10% bullshit formula?
Yeah, so this is back old school Ed Lemko days. This is something that I 100% agree with because all salespeople are 90% ego, 10% bullshit. So what happens to this ego? And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with these shadow buyers and these beat down buyers calling from, if I'm in Texas and they're calling from New York State, is that a real buyer? I don't know. And if they're just calling to see who has what, this is frustrating for sales guys. And I've witnessed this actually at our little friends up in Canada. Their
Yeah.
sales team was getting beat down because a guy from Montreal isn't going to Canada to Calgary and buying a sled. He's just not. He's trying to get the best price from them so he can go back to his local dealership and say, hey, take off, you hosers. We got really good deals over in Calgary and give me a discount. And so
That's
the
right.
sales guys were just like, man, this is a beatdown. All I do every day is like 50% of my leads are guys that are just trying to get a price out of me so they can go shop me at another province. So what happens when you take away the ego? You're left with what? Bullshit.
That's
And your
right.
sales guys, when they're full of shit, that's the last person you want answering the phones or dealing with your customers. So I have to tell dealers all the time, man, look at this seriously because it's the reality. Even though we think sales guys are prima donnas, which they are sometimes, they take the path of least resistance. Yes, they do sometimes, but at the end of the day, they're the most forward facing, representative of the dealership. And we have to really think about how is it for them to do their job? In my training, I teach make it easy to own for the customer, and then the leadership, make it easy to sell for the sales staff because you don't want any bullshit running around your dealership. And if their egos get destroyed because you don't make it easy for them to sell, then you're left with the 10% there on the bottom half.
Hey, give us a little shout out on like our team, because that's what our team is doing right now with this particular example case study that Derek just mentioned in Calgary. We're taking a lot of the brunt of it for them on a lot of those BS calls that they're just kind of shopping and stuff like that. And even so, I just want to say that even so, I told my team, I know it's frustrating. We're taking this for them. So we're taking it off of the sales guys' hands so they're not demoralized by it. But even so, I tell my guys that you still have to be human. You can't just be like, no, sorry, we don't have it, because it's an out-of-towner,
Yeah.
You still have to, be human, be courteous, deal with it. And then at that point, you decipher, oh yeah, this guy's an out-of-towner. Well, now your follow-up efforts are not going to be the same for that guy that is going to be, a very much a potential buyer. But I just wanted to bring that up to ask you to, give us a little shout out there, because that's pretty much what, we're doing we're working hand in hand with you in Calgary, to fix that problem.
Well, I can tell you that the dealer principal there is tickled pink as an elephant. His sales team is able now, since you guys took over handling those shadow buyers, they have now focused on the deliveries, which if you know anything about Can-Am, it's a BRP only store. They've already sold every single Sea-Doo for the whole year. So basically this month they're tasked with the deliveries of those 45 units just in the month of May and another 45 in June. On top of that, we have them doing some Black Ops Ninja behind enemy lines BDC calls trying to get inventory, which is something we'll go into on our next webinar. So it freed up their time. And not only that, I can tell you, just talking to the sales manager as well as the dealer principal, he said the attitude of the guys, they're back on track. They're enjoying it again. They show up to work early. They're having fun. They're high-fiving and the customers are feeling it. They're getting great Google reviews, which I think you're also helping set up. So
Yep.
it's been a huge, huge victory for these guys. And I'll tell you, without disclosing their numbers, but when I started working with them, we called our operation, I always give operation names, we called it Back in Black, because they hadn't been in the black in a minute. And this year they're on pace to have the biggest year they've ever had. And it's just really exciting being a part of that and watching your guys help them tee up the sales department so they can make the proper calls and have the energized, ass grabbing antics on the floor like those Albertan Canadians do, eh?
Yeah, hey. Yeah, man. I'm very blessed and humbled, to be able to have, to be able to collaborate with you on that and have my team, work it. Yeah, it's very exciting. They're great people, and so thank you for that, man. It's very exciting to hear that. So, yeah, but it boils down to, again, just being human, right, and having that experience, because we know if we take that off there, like if you just centralize and you focus on that experience, because that's where it all starts, then it goes 360. And when the sales guy now turns around and says, hey, would you mind leaving us a Google review? Heck yeah, of course, because the experience was good. It's like buying a brand new Apple phone. That is an awesome experience from the moment you open the box. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's got to be the same thing at your dealership. From the moment
Totally.
that customer picks up the phone or that submits that lead on your website, it's got to be that experience. We know that if, a company like us, an agency like us that does lead management and lead generation, if we take the lead generation off of a dealer's hands, because the vast majority of dealers, they're not that great at lead management, which is okay, right?
Right.
Then we know that when we get that person to the dealership's going to do what they do best. And they're going to get excited because now they've got the person in front of them. They're going to talk shop about the vehicles, and
Right.
and they're going to have a good closing ratio. And so, yeah, everything just kind of aligns when you really take care of it. So thanks for that shout out, man. That made me excited. A little bit too excited, some would say.
Take it easy, buddy. Take it easy.
Yeah, just Scotty, turn it down a notch.
Right. Let's go back
All
to
right.
10.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on before we derail time, just to talk about some of the common symptoms of like a bad follow-up strategy or no follow-up strategy at all. And Derek, feel free to jump in here, as you best see fit. I have noticed that you've got overly complicated and needlessly expensive software technologies is a traditional one. So the dealer would tend to think, oh man, if only I have this technology, if only I'm using this or using that, I'll be okay. And it turns out that in and of itself presents a whole nother, plethora of difficulties and problems, because you got to train, it's expensive, you name it. I've also noticed, of course, that then the dealer's going to struggle with booked appointments. So the amount of actual leads that come in versus like actual appointments that are booked. And then, of course, no shows. And then one that we've kind of alluded to this whole time is that the sales staff, I think probably rightfully so, complains a lot about feeling overwhelmed. Now, any last thought on those kind of pain points and symptoms before I jumped on to going into like the successful follow-up strategies for dealerships, Derek?
Yeah, so this is very crucial because the first slide you showed, the overcomplicated and expensive software, this is hits it on the head. So many dealerships pay car dealership CRM companies to manage and work their leads, and it doesn't apply to our business, and it's overcomplicated. And what's the fastest way to get a guy to not buy into the CRM? It's making it overcomplicated. Yeah. And some are undercomplicated. Like, I don't want to name any names, but the people that run most of the dealerships have their own software built into their other software. And it's like, this is ridiculous. It doesn't give any guidance for the sales guy. Like, if you can say every day you walk into work, your sales guy logs into a computer and right there it pops up, boom, call these people today. Boom, these people you said you would touch base with last week. Boom, these people bought from you. You needed to touch base with them 3 weeks, 3 months, blah, blah, blah. If you have it right there for them and you tell them exactly what to do, and one of my favorite CRMs from the CRM company I used to work for, it even gave you the word tracks. So you would be sitting there and you would have these calls to make, and it told you what to say to these people to
Yep.
open up the conversation and not be, hey, are you ready to buy yet? Cricket, cricket. Hey, did your wife say yes yet? Cricket, cricket. It actually gave good, solid, back and forth banter with your customers. So they feel like they're getting a good experience. Your sales guys are getting those touches, like you said, and it's super simple and easy. So you get buy-in. So that's the thing that, and I know your software is super simple and it ties into a lot of the things you're doing. And that
Yeah.
may be another webinar in and of itself, but it's got to be easy. Again, it goes back to make it easy to sell for your sales team. Otherwise, you're not getting the traction that you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, our CRM that we use as the engine for all of our follow-up, and we put all of our dealers that we do lead management for, we put on there by default. Of course, we don't force them to use it because we know how much of a nightmare CRM change can be. But our CRM is Dealer Lead Pro, and it's huge. I mean, it's so powerful. It mixes in one-on-one emails, one-on-one texts, email blast, text message blast, Google My Business, Facebook Messenger, and web chats all in one platform. So super, super powerful. But with that, let's talk about the follow-up strategies, success strategies for dealerships. 3 main points. Hit me up later if you want a copy of the slide deck PDF, so you don't have to take notes or anything like that. And I can even give you the recording. But it's really 3 simple points. This actually is going to touch upon a little bit on like the question that Liz asked earlier, right? The first one that I talk about is the outreach cadence. So pace and structure of the outreach is super important. By the way, feel free to jump in here as you see fit, Derek. But what we have found out is we already know by stats that it's going to take you on average 5 to 7 touches. Now, when I say touches, I'm talking about in general. It could be a mix, usually a mix thereof of emails, phone calls, and text before the sales process begins, meaning before you have a prospect actually raise their hand and say, hey, yeah, I'm interested, right? Even though
I think it's important to also acknowledge that this is down from like 16 to 22 touches before COVID. So this 5 to 6 touches now before we even get a proper, hey, let's get in and talk about numbers or get anything serious. Now it's down from 16 to 22 to 5 to 6 touches.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, even though it's an inbound lead. So this is something that's important to discern because, there tends to be a misconception like, okay, well, this guy, like Derek, I don't know how many times you've probably overheard this in sales meetings, but I tend to hear sales guys that are like, well, why did that guy put in his information and then he's going to ghost me? And they don't, I think what they don't realize is like, because they're looking to either get courted or because they got busy or because life got in the way or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But the name of the game is that the cadence of it is super critical. Like your outreach needs to be there. Now, the stuff that's on the screen right now, which talks about like an automatic call lead, that's one of the things that we do, for instance, with Dealer Lead Pro. It's not an auto dialer to the lead because that would be spam, but it auto dials our reps and it notifies them there's a hot lead right now on the line, and then they press any number and it dials the lead, right? So it's for speed purposes. We're not the only platform to do that. There are a few others that can do that, but implementing that in and of itself is very powerful because even if you don't have all of the relevant information at hand, which for Dealer Lead Pro, we do have info on like how that lead came in, and it tells us if it's on the website, what they were looking at and everything. But if let's say a dealership uses a different resource that is just an auto dialer, it's okay just to pick up the phone and be like, hey, I saw that you were inquiring on our website, that you put an inquiry on our website. And I don't have all the information in front of me, but I really wanted to make sure that that we care about your inquiry and I wanted to talk to you, So this kind of goes back to the question about Liz was saying about something that is meaningful with regards to the reply. it's not so much at that very first touch within the 60 seconds about putting something that addresses everything, you know, exactly the way that, for instance, Pied Piper, that's one of the only beefs that I have with like Pied Piper. You know, we help dealers score an
Well, I
A
want to,
Pied Piper, but that's one of the things where like they want you to cram in everything. But they're not necessarily putting in, they're like, hey, you got to get back to them as soon as possible, right? What
well,
are we going
Joe,
to
let
say
me
there?
take it another step. Instead of, talking about the inquiry, because this is one of my pet peeves is people use, just because it says inquiry on our lead, inbound lead, or they click inquiry, sales guys say, oh, I saw you're inquiring about. Well, let's take it another step further. If it's a new unit, I saw that you're interested in blank. Did you want X color or Y color? Question mark. Leave it right there. And then all of a sudden they go, well, of course I wanted the blue one because that's one I was looking at. And then if it's a used one, you say, hey, I saw that you're looking at our 2016 BMW Cafe Racer. Did you want that with or without a warranty? And boom, next thing you know, what I've seen is just that simple question. You're acknowledging that they were interested in something. We don't say inquiry because that's like automated response talk, but we ask them a direct question on, hey, did you want this or this? And then all of a sudden they go, well, yeah, I want this, or no, I don't need a warranty. And then boom, okay, great. Where are you calling from? Where are you to? What do you ride now? And then all of a sudden it's another conversation, but we've got them because a lot of people, they expect that salesmanship right up front and they're turned off by it. So if we ask honest questions, then we get responses and that opens the door for us to build the relationship.
Yeah, I think a lot to your point. I think that a lot of people will be concerned about like maybe looking bad or looking a certain way if they don't necessarily answer the question exactly. But it's okay. Like it's just really again about being human and having that conversation. You know, to your point. So so all right. So the cadence that's on the screen essentially goes through what would be the general aspect of setting up the minimal amount of touches really required to get things going. 6 emails, 6 text messages. Now, when we say automated text, the key to that is to make them look completely personalized. And I can't get into the details of it right now because we don't have enough time. But there is a way to make them highly customized so it looks like, you know, it is you actually sending it. Carefully crafted messaging, all of those things are important. You want to do between 15 and 20 touches within a week and a half to 2 weeks maximum, depending on your target audience, when your lead first comes in. After that, you can go a little bit less aggressively and put them into something that isn't just so, you know, crazy. But let me jump on to number 2 before we kind of run out of time, which is automation and integrations, right? So the aspect of having automation, meaning as many channels as possible into your technology, right, is super critically important. The reason why is because the use of multiple channels on your marketing communication is going to increase your success rate by 161%. That's something that we know.
Okay,
Obviously,
can you dumb that down for those of us that don't speak Greek? Like
yeah, yeah,
multiple
yeah.
communication channels. So
Yeah,
in
so
a sense.
communication channels, meaning you probably heard me say earlier on with regards to um, uh, being able to centralize as many different things like emails and text messages into one platform like Dealer Lead Pro.
Right.
Well, communication channels will mean anything that your dealership will use to essentially get an inquiry. So as you know, that could be, my gosh, that could be so much. It could be the web leads that come in from your website, right? It could be Cycle Trader. All of those really turn into what? Usually emails. You'll
Right.
get notified via email with the customer's information, and you'll get their phone number and you'll get their email and their name usually.
So this will do chat, it'll do email, it'll do any kind of Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, all those other channels, the sources, if you will.
Exactly, the different sources. So for instance, Google My Business is a big one. Google My Business, Facebook Messenger is a big one, a chat widget on your website, obviously the given ones, which are email and text messages, and of course, let's not forget phone. The phone is a big and important one. And this goes, the aspect of being able to automate and centralize and use technology to your advantage as a dealer And I don't want to give a one very specific formula on how to do it. Pick my brain on it later on a call, and I can give you 1,000 different ways that you can do it, because there really is. My thing is, you do it the way that's best for your dealership. But the key factor that I think it's important for you to take away from this, that I always talk about, is meet people where they're at. And this goes again to Derek's point of just being human. I've got this really cool case study of a customer of ours, 2 locations, same ownership, one south location, one north location. North was a little bit more old school, phone, smiling dial, pounding the phone every day. South location was much more well-rounded, right? They did an even number of phone calls, emails, and texts. Guess who fared better? The south location. Why did they fare better? Because they were meeting people where they were at. So even if your team is much more phone focused, take a step back for a second and really ask not how we want to communicate with our lead, but how does the lead or the potential customer want to communicate with us, if that kind of makes sense. Would you agree to that, Derek?
Aye, Captain, sure.
Aye, Captain. So number 3, valuable reporting, super critical and important. And I'm going to kind of just breeze through this one so we can wrap up, because I do want to open it up for any other sorts of Q&A and want to be respectful of people's time. But this is super critical. I kind of call them the OEM secret KPIs. It's the KPIs that your OEM won't tell you. They'll just beat you over the head and say you're not responding to leads quickly enough.
Right, with the CSI and the CXI and you don't get as much money because you didn't perform.
Oh my gosh, exactly. So, lead response time, huge. Number of touch points, huge. Lead connect rates, how many of them were you able to get connected with? Booked appointment ratio, and then kept and missed appointments. Now, of course, at the bottom, we've got sold vehicles, but this is the formula that's going to get you there. Now, you just talked about CSI. I have a really quick little example of one of our case studies that we were talking about earlier. And, right after, we took on helping them out, their CSI score started very quickly jumping, as you could see on the screen, which is really cool, just something I'm very proud of. And then their average, net promoter score has jumped pretty significantly too as well. So it's something that we're very, very excited about. And I wanted to make sure to include those slides in here.
That's good work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So we're rounding up the end of the webinar. Anything that you want to touch upon on this little conclusion slide here, Derek, with regards to for them to implement, as far as, I don't know, just customer service?
Real simple. It's real simple. And this is what I tell people all the time. You, YOU, are the reason people will come to your dealership. So everybody has a nice store. They have whatever inventory they have right now, but it's your team that makes the difference. If you have an excellent plan on handling the inbound leads, if you have the best guys on the phones, handling those phone calls, being a real person, asking the right questions, trying to set the appointments, if you have the follow-up, post-purchase, pre-inquiry, then you're going to set yourself apart. And right now, it's not hard to do it, to make yourself look like champs. So if you just worry about your processes, you manage either your people or your process. But the process is in place, don't manage people, and you just work the process. Your customers, they're going to all come and see you because you provide a better, different experience than everybody else right now. And that's what people want, especially in this business. It's not about anything that we need. This is all stuff we want. And I want to be treated right when I go in someplace. So it's really that simple.
That's straight on point, man. I think just real quick, Raymond said on in the chat, he says this, everyone find text or chat to work better. And I said, my response to him just right now was, yes, sir. In the sense that chat and text will typically garnish a quicker response. But then the key to it, and I wanted to tie this with what Derek just said, is that, of course, we have an agenda in mind, which is to get people to the dealership, right? So always know that the key is going to be to continue that conversation and keep it dynamic. How have you felt? Think about it. How have you felt when, like, you texted somebody and you didn't hear from that person till a week later. You're like, oh, whatever. By the time they text you back, you're so frustrated, right?
Mhm.
So keeping that conversation going is super critical and important. And I think it ties back to what Derek just said, which is, being human. All of those things are going to be critically important to implementing in your dealership. It's really a system. It's would you call would you say, Derek, that a system could be a culture? Really, you can make a system into a
Well,
culture, right?
Well, I think the system promotes or sustains the culture, right? So if our culture is we never leave, somebody behind, that's our culture. We pick them, drag them up, and bring them on. If we never leave a lead unattended, that could be our culture, and the system supports that culture. So I think the systems definitely support whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in the dealership, and that goes back to my make it easy to sell to the staff. If we're setting them up with the right tools, the right systems, the right processes, I hate to say it, but Belichick, he had it all right. He had all the right plays, the right coaches, and they went to Super Bowl and playoff after playoff. And that's what it is. Consistency breeds success. So we have to have the best processes, systems, and then we have to be consistent with it. And then we're going to be successful. It's real simple
So
and it's real important.
tell him, Derek, we've got your email on the screen. If it, for if any of the dealers joining us here want to implement something like this, they can hit you up at dsanders@ds1consulting.com, right?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't want to speak for you, but like it's obviously no obligation or anything like that. I mean, they can hit you up. You could just do like a consultation with them on the phone and see what they
Yeah.
need. Okay,
And a
cool.
lot of times I'll even send out, if I have interest, then I'll send a phone playbook out. So no charge. I mean, I like to help people. Sometimes I get paid for it. That's what I've always said. And that's how I built my business for the last 10 years. So it comes back around.
And it's true. He really means it because I've worked with him as I said earlier, for what going on 5 years now, and it's true. He really does operate like that. So I'll plug us in there. We will help your dealership out with lead management and lead generation. Lead generation for us right now has taken a backseat because of the amazing seasons that that we've had recently. Thankfully,
Right.
not all industries can say that, so we've been very lucky in that regard. But unfortunately, that 300% spike in internet leads has also left a lot of dealerships to realize that, hey man, the OEMs were right. We kind of do stink at follow-up, right? And so if you want to pick my brain, yeah, schedule a call with me just by going to gobeyondcreative.com/schedule. And no obligation. I love to help dealerships out, just like Derek as well. You can hit me up at joe@gobeyondcreative.com too. And I've got a ton of materials to give you as well for free, to help you out. And so with that, I want to go ahead, Derek, and kind of open up. I know it's like 3 on the nose, but those that don't mind staying for a Q&A, let's kind of open it up for a little Q&A if you have a few more minutes, Derek.
Of course I do. And I also want to take this opportunity to say thanks for showing up. We understand, especially now, how busy it is in the dealership. But I do challenge you to next week is going to be even better than this week. If you got anything out of this week, then that's great. But next week is going to be a much better sit and talk about how you can increase your used inventory, your pre-owned inventory, and survive, if not triple, quadruple what the profits you made even last year when you're up 40%. So questions for sure, and tune in. When is our next appointment anyway, Joe? Is that next week?
I think so. 2 weeks from Thursday, so the 10th.
Okay.
Yep, June 10th. And I believe, Hajra, do you have the time? Was that one at 1 p.m. Eastern? I'm excited. I'm really excited about that one because that one's an extra hot topic right now.